UFC Qatar has ended and the main event delivered on the expectations, and here's how the experts were expecting the fight would go.
That's it. Wow. Oh, wow. Oh, my gosh. That was a great performance.
Wow, great fight by Arman Tsarukyan.
He's going head and arm. One of his best moves, head and arm choke. And it's deep. God, that's GG's. That is GG's, I think. Oh, God, look at his head. Not good. Not good. Tsarukyan's a fucking beast. Wow.
Performance was crazy like we accept. I knew it's gonna be finished, but I wanted to wait, so don't say that. But I went for it. I like we accepted, you know. So Arman is the best, so he's the number one. He's the champion. He's the athlete. So I believe this guy is one of the best fighters in the world. He has to fight for them.
I went up to Tsarukyan. I congratulated him. I went up to Kamzat. I said, "Hey, champ, what's up? When are we going to see you back?" He goes, "I don't know, brother. Whenever. Smash." All right, cool. Sweet. Slaps me on the back. I'm like, all right, cool. Security guard gets in front of us. I'm like, we literally were just cool with each other. He's not going to fight me. And then that childish energy comes out. "Yeah, I was you, brother. You." Boom. Tries to push me. I just turned around and went, "You're meant to be a champion of this sport. You're a child. You're taking away from your friend's win over here. How about you calm down, slow down, and have a bit of respect for your friend over here rather than trying to steal the headlines." Do you want the honest truth? It's little dick energy. I need to show the world I'm tough. I need to show you're the champion of the world. No one needs to see you be tough. You don't need to have these anger management issues. Just be a man. Sorry. I'll get him one day. We're all going to try grab a hold of my legs. Born little. I'm not going to get. Don't get me started.
Okay, so here's the thing, guys. This is actually a gift from the gods for the UFC. Like, this has all worked out so perfectly for them because, look, Ilya hasn't fought since June. He should be ready to go. Paddy very clearly is ready to go. He hasn't fought since April, his win over Michael Chandler. The best way, we continue to say, of the people available, the best way to debut the Paramount Plus era in 2026, first show of 2026, rumored to be at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, January 24th. I'm calling it a PLE numbered event. You know, they're going to keep those, title fights on the number of events we suspect. The best way to start this is Ilya versus Paddy. You just had Arman win, look good. He's now the number one guy. He's waiting in the wings. You bring him out there, and yet you keep this train rolling along. I'm sorry, there is zero momentum towards a Justin Gaethje title fight against Ilia Topuria. And now that Arman did what he did, I think he completely knocked Justin out of the way. There is zero interest, zero momentum. I would sign up for Arman versus Ilya right now. But I think you have Paddy there. You want to strike while the iron is hot. He's ready to go. He hasn't fought since April. It's going to be almost a year since his last fight by the time this January date comes along. Do Ilya versus Paddy. You saw the little run-in. You see the animosity there. Do that in January. Have Arman in the front row. He fights the winner. And now the lightweight division is back rolling like it was when Islam was champ.
You didn't take a lot of damage tonight. Is there a chance if they said to you, hey, you can fight for the belt, but it has to be in January, could you turn around that fast?
Of course. I can rest 1 week, fly to US and stay there 2 months. It's enough time to get ready. And I didn't get any injured. thank God. And they have to say that. And hopefully on Tuesday they announce that fight, and me fighting main event with Topuria when it's gonna be in Vegas or in Los Angeles. So I'm ready. I gotta take that chance, and I have pretty time to get ready.
Are you a little bit disappointed that this week Ilya didn't seem to want to have anything to do with you?
I mean, I didn't want to mention too much Ilya because I was focused on my fight. But after today, I'm gonna try to again create some crazy videos that are gonna be viral and try to make a joke, you know, and to bring a lot of eyes for that fight, because it's like a media sport too, you know. You gotta be a good fighter and a good showman. Hopefully on Tuesday they announce that fight, and me fighting main event with Topuria when it's gonna be in Vegas or in Los Angeles. So I'm ready. I gotta take that chance, and I have pretty time to get ready. In my mind goes like I can strike with him on the long distance, but when he wants to try like to box me and throw his hard punch, at that moment I'm gonna shoot and take him down. So, and I believe myself, and I know I can beat him so easy as well.
Michael Bisping shared his thoughts on the Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker fight, saying it could be seen as a striker versus grappler matchup. He described Dan Hooker as a tall, lanky striker and kickboxer in great form, training out of City Kickboxing. Bisping noted that although Hooker hadn't fought in around 17 months due to injury, he had been on a 3-fight winning streak before the layoff.
Now going to fight. Now, Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker, you could argue that this is a striker versus grappler kind of scenario. Of course, Dan Hooker, being the striker that he is, being the tall, lanky kickboxer, training out of City Kickboxing, who's on tremendous form right now, even though he hasn't fought in what will be about 17 months by the time he fights. He's been out with an injury, but he was on a 3-fight win streak. He last beat Mateusz Gamrot via split decision. Before that, he beat Jalen Turner.
Bisping said the fight was very important for the division. He explained that if Dan Hooker won, a new contender could emerge, but if Arman Tsarukyan won, he would likely get a title shot next. Bisping noted that Arman had only 3 losses, 2 of them in the UFC, including one to Mateusz Gamrot, but had since won 4 fights in a row, putting him next in line. He added that Arman would still have to get past Hooker, which wouldn't be easy, especially against this version of Dan Hooker.
This is going to be a really key fight. If Dan Hooker wins this one, we could have a new contender. If Arman Tsarukyan wins this, then of course the man is going to fight for the belt next. He's only got 3 losses on his record. 2 of them are in the UFC. One was to Mateusz Gamrot, but since then the man is on a 4-fight win streak, and he kind of is the next guy in line. But of course, he's got to get through Dan Hooker, and that ain't going to be easy. This version of Dan Hooker, the version of Dan Hooker that is covered in tattoos from neck to toe, the version of Dan Hooker that's going through a midlife crisis and holding bloody scraps in his backyard.
Kamaru Usman also spoke about the main event between Arman Tsarukyan and Dan Hooker and what it could mean for Ilia Topuria. He said that a quick and dominant win for Arman would boost Ilya's position. Usman mentioned that Arman had shown strength since his loss to Islam Makhachev and felt it was hard to see him failing, possibly finishing the fight within 2 rounds.
If Arman Tsarukyan goes out there and gets it done relatively quickly in impressive fashion, it helps the case of Ilya, you need to stay down. Let's defend this belt now because you are the champion here.
If he's able to rip the playbook off of what Islam was able to do, we'll say Arman Tsarukyan within 2 rounds. Submission.
It's a tough one, but based on how Arman Tsarukyan has looked since the loss to Islam Makhachev, it's hard to believe that this man can't go out there and get the job done.
MMA Guru gave his thoughts on the fight between Arman and Hooker, admitting that Hooker was one of his favorite fighters, but he still leaned toward Arman winning. He pointed out that many were underestimating Hooker and reminded them that the Gamrot fight was extremely close and could have gone either way. He added that if Gamrot had been a bigger name, the judges might have favored his control more. Still, he acknowledged Hooker's improvements in takedown defense and scrambling, saying he handled those situations much better than before.
Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan the Hangman Hooker. This is another painful one because Dan Hooker's one of my favorite fighters in the UFC. But I'm going to go with Arman Tsarukyan here over Dan Hooker. I do think Dan Hooker's being underrated here because even though people say, the Gamrot fight was a robbery, it was a close fight that could have gone either way, really. Do I think Gamrot could have won? And if Gamrot had Ov at the end of his name, he probably would have won based on the control time that he had. Let's just call it what it is. But Dan Hooker's really good at stuffing take. He's a lot better at it than he was before when it comes to scrambling up from takedowns.
MMA Guru thought Arman was stronger when he controlled the fight on the ground and could make it meaningful. He mentioned that Hooker was returning after major arm issues, but still had size, reach, and the ability to turn the fight with a single punch. He believed Arman had enough striking to stay safe, secure the takedown, and dominate on top. He predicted Arman would likely finish the fight in the second or third round using heavy ground attacks.
In a proper... I think he's better at implementing dominant positions on top. And Gamrot had them a lot on Dan Hooker in their fight. And Hooker just broke his arm again, twice. Right? 2 broken arms back to back. Coming back into this one, if he wins, you can think about a title shot maybe. If he makes the right call out. And he's a big name and he's big. And he's tall and he's got reach, and maybe he sets up the knee on Arman, and Arman has had some stinkers. Arman had the Joaquim Silva performance where it wasn't the best. He got wobbled. But I think he's going to be able to take down Dan Hooker, and I don't think he's as lost on the feet as we suggest. And I think he's actually going to finish him in round 2 or 3 from the mount with ground and pound. That's where I think Arman's better than Gamrot at with the grappling, is taking a dominant position and actually doing something with it.
Meanwhile, Arman Tsarukyan called the fight against Dan Hooker a risky one, explaining that he had to defend his #1 contender position while Hooker was fighting with nothing to lose. He added that a loss would have significant consequences for his standing.
This is like a kind of risky fight for me because I have something to lose, but for Hooker, nothing to lose. If he loses to me, he said, yeah, okay, I'll lose to #1 contender. But for me, it's 3 steps back. That's why I'm very motivated and ready to beat him.
Dan Hooker said he was confident that defeating Arman Tsarukyan at UFC Qatar would improve his ranking and put him in line for a fight with Ilia Topuria. He noted that Topuria was the division's top contender and wanted the matchup because other fighters had been reluctant to face him. Hooker added that some had avoided Topuria with excuses like injuries, but he believed that a win over Arman could jump him from outside the top 5 directly into contender position, opening a major opportunity.
Yeah, he's the #1 contender that needs a win in the division, and that's why I chased this fight and I asked for this fight, and I nagged the UFC to give me this fight, is because I knew no one between myself and Arman Tsarukyan would want to fight Arman Tsarukyan because they got a good excuse to avoid him. You know, he did pull out of that fight with the bad back, and so the champion and guys, the bigger name guys in the division like Gagey, they have a good excuse to not fight him. I believe it's because he is the most skillful fighter in the division, but these other guys have a good reason to not fight him, and I knew that with a win over Arman Tsarukyan, I get to jump the queue. I get to jump from outside the top 5 to the #1 contender in the divisions.
Moreover, Arman Tsarukyan confirmed that he intended to stay in the lightweight division for the next 2 to 3 years. He said his goal was to set as many records as possible at 155 pounds before thinking about moving to another weight class. He added that only after accomplishing everything at lightweight would he consider moving up, with his main focus fully on dominating the division.
Yeah, Islam moved, but if I beat all records here in 155 to be a champion and defend as much as possible, and then yeah, probably I'm gonna think about the move division. But right now, 2-3 years, I wanna stay here and beat the old records in 155.
On the other hand, Jamahal Hill was backing Arman Tsarukyan to defeat Dan Hooker. He explained that Arman wasn't concerned with making the fight flashy and would focus on controlling and grinding down his opponent until the final bell. Hill pointed out that Hooker thrived in exciting fights and aimed to entertain the fans, but Arman had no interest in that approach. He added that unless Hooker landed something early that forced Arman to face adversity, the fight was likely to be uneventful.
The Arman, because you already know what he's gonna do. Because he don't give a fight Dan exciting. Dan Hooker likes good fights. He likes exciting fights. Dan likes to please the fans. He likes to please you. Arman don't do that, bro. He's gonna come out and grab you. He's gonna drive until the end of until the bell rings. Like, he don't care. He don't care about making it exciting. That fight, unless Dan hits him with something early and like hurts him and like can make him like kind of have to fight through some adversity, it's gonna be boring.
Carlos Prats shared his thoughts on the fight between Arman Tsarukyan and Dan Hooker, showing respect for both fighters but favoring Arman. He pointed out Arman's balanced skill set, including both striking and grappling, and added that he liked Arman's style more than Hooker's.
Bro, I like both fighters. I think Tsarukyan gonna win because he's more complete. He's have a good striker, and he's a good striker. I have a good grappling also, but I like more than Hooker, his style. I like more.
On the other hand, Beneil Dariush acknowledged how difficult it was to pick against Arman Tsarukyan. He noted that Dan Hooker had few clear advantages aside from his toughness if the fight became a pure striking battle. Dariush added that while Hooker could perform well in that scenario, he didn't expect Arman to allow the fight to turn out that way and ultimately favored Tsarukyan to win.
I mean, it's tough to pick against Arman in this fight. I don't really see Dan having too many advantages in this fight. The only thing I can really think of as far as having an advantage in, I would say Dan has, he's got that dog in him. So if it turns into a punching match, man, Dan's going to be great there. But I just don't think Arman necessarily needs it to be a punching match. So yeah, I would definitely got Arman on that one.
Mateusz Gamrot shared his take on the Arman Tsarukyan versus Dan Hooker matchup at UFC Qatar, leaning toward Arman. He felt Arman's complete skill set, blending sharp striking with solid jiu-jitsu, gave him the advantage. Gamrot put the odds around 60-40 in favor of Tsarukyan and added that if he got past Jalen Turner, he'd be interested in facing the winner of Arman versus Hooker.
I see Hooker has fight with Arman, and if I pass Charles, I can fight with the winner of Arman versus Hooker.
Who do you think wins that fight?
I think Arman has more chance to win this fight because he's more all-rounder fighter, Good wrestler, strong, good jiu-jitsu, good striking movement. So I think 60-40 for Arman, he can beat Hooker.
Flyweight fighter Mitch Raposo said he liked Dan Hooker and hoped he would win, but admitted it was a tough matchup. He noted Arman's strong wrestling and grappling, but pointed out that Dan had beaten Gamrot, who is a persistent grappler that keeps coming at you. Raposo added that Dan showed great skill in getting back to his feet, striking effectively, and fighting for every inch, which is crucial against fighters like Arman. In the end, he thought Arman might have the edge, but he was rooting for Dan.
Arman Tsarukyan, he's gonna use his wrestling and dominate.
I like Dan Hooker, so I hope he wins, but I mean, it's a tough matchup, obviously. Arman's wrestling and grappling, but Dan beat Gamrot, dude. So, I mean, Gamrot is as, annoying as it is, I feel like, for a grappler. He's just going to keep shooting. And Dan, I feel really, was real good at just getting back to his feet, fighting the hands, and just, fought for every, inch, which is, so important against those guys. So, probably Arman, but I'm pulling for Dan.
Anthony Hernandez's coach, Jim West, expressed that he hoped Hooker would win, but admitted the fight was clearly in Arman's favor. He highlighted Arman's superior grappling and conditioning, noting that the key question was whether Hooker could handle that pace for the full duration. Despite rooting for Hooker, West acknowledged that he ultimately expected Arman to come out on top.
Well, I want to see Dan Hooker win, but again, I think it's very similar, right? Arman can grapple his ass off and he's got great conditioning. It's whether or not Dan's going to be able to withstand that for the duration, right? So I want Dan to win, but I can't bet with my heart. so I have to say Arman will win. But but I want Dan Hooker to win.
On the contrary, Walter Walker picked Arman as his pick for the UFC Qatar clash. He noted that Arman had a complete skill set, blending wrestling, jiu-jitsu, and striking efficiently. Walker also mentioned Arman's strong drive, saying that the long break after missing a title shot had fueled his motivation for this fight.
Yeah, I'm with Arman Tsarukyan. I think he's gonna win that fight. I think he has more how I can say you, like complete game. He can wrestling, he can jiu-jitsu, he can striking. I think he like fighter, he like more better. And I think he more hungry, you know, like he long time don't fight. Here he's on the title shot and he pull out. He sit on the freezer for like 2 years, almost 2 years, yeah? And now he coming back. I think this guy hungry.
That wraps up today's video, and we hope you enjoyed it. Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more great MMA content.